Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network, or also our FTN Network YouTube page. See some people hanging out live with us. Smash the like button. Hopefully a fun Friday here for you guys. We're going to dive into my favorite picks against the spread, some totals, some money line stuff, a crazy little teaser, little parlay in there. It's kind of chalky, but I like it. We got some NFL props for you as well. Also going to dive into my favorite NFL DFS picks. A friendly reminder of the NFL DFS show today and then on Sunday morning as well. The DFS package is absolutely lit. I think I saw somebody, one of our subs yesterday, win a few grand. I thought I saw that just before I came on, like a $4 entry and won like 6K or something like that, and gave us a shout out to some of our projections in the optimizer and all the great content over at ftndaily.com. We'll recap last night just a little bit. I suppose we could do it right now off the top. There's not a lot of big takeaways for me. I think we had an okay day on this show, actually. We went 3 for 4 on the single props. We had Mike Williams yards, Mike Williams touchdown. We had Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushing yards. We did not get the yards from Joshua Palmer, but we had that same game parlay. I think it only paid plus 225 or 245. And, over at DraftKings, when you do a same game parlay, you can do alternate odds. And that's fantastic. So those that are in Ontario watching, near Anthem Sports Entertainment. Shout out to you guys and in the Toronto area. Same game parlay, you can do little things that change the odds, but at the end of the day, we just want to get some winners, right? So I believe we had Tyler, I don't know if you have that one handy. We could show people, but we had Mike Williams 4+ grabs and the receiving yards. We had Joshua Palmer 4+ grabs and the receiving yards. And then we also had a couple others in there that eventually, he's Austin Eckler 4+ grabs and receiving yards as well. I saw a lot of people complaining about Austin Eckler yesterday in his usage. I get it, to start the game potentially. He wasn't used that way. He said himself he doesn't want to be a guy that's getting 20+ carries. He sees the big picture overall, keep him fresh. But ultimately, I think he had near 100 yards and 24 touches. I think he had like 9 grabs. Some of that came towards the end, the final 2 drives, but he's still used. I think people should still be happy with Austin Eckler's usage. He didn't find the end zone. He found the end zone 20 times last year. So that is just it. If he finds the end zone, he finishes with 20 fantasy points in a half-point setting, and you're well on your way. Can't complain too much about Austin Eckler and the usage from yesterday. There were a couple things that you could complain about, I suppose. MVS was out there running routes and playing more snaps than anyone at the wide receiver position in KC, but he didn't really show up, only a handful of catches. He didn't do anything really through the air. Mecole Hardman looked okay when he was on the field. He left for a bit, and then he came back. I thought the Chargers defense did a great job on Travis Kelce. Shout out to Derwin James, of course, friend of the show. He did a great job on Kelce, limited the catches, limited the yards. That's kind of Kelce's floor. What he did for you last week is, his floor, and what we did for you in week 1, or what he did for you yesterday. I guess that's the fantasy floor. And what he did for you in week 1, that's the ceiling, the level that he can get to. Credit to the Chargers, I suppose, for coming back and making a game of that towards the end, but it was just garbage time stuff. We got lucky to get a couple things on this show. We got lucky, I think, to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushing yards. He had a 52-yard run towards the end, and I think we got lucky with the backdoor cover, the Joshua Palmer touchdown at the end to get us there. But I'm waiting to hear something about Justin Herbert. Hopefully he doesn't have crack ribbed or anything like that. He took a couple nasty shots. There was a play where he could have, had extended the get the first down. I think it was like 3rd and 2, and he just kind of threw it off to the side. And then the very next play, he threw a dime down the field. He's just an absolute baller. But Chargers defense looks great. Besides, a little bit of a blown coverage there to Watson for a touchdown, and then the pick 6. I thought that was a little bit on Gerald Everett. Everett had a nice couple catches, moved up the field. They were playing hurry up offense, and then he had I think a grab where he extended to first down or something like that, and then inside the 5-10 roughly. And then he was calling to get out, right? He was like, I want out. And then Chargers were like, hurry up, gets back to the huddle. Actually, there's no huddle, got right to the line of scrimmage. And then it looked like he gave up on the route. It felt like he was right there and Herbert had connection. And then he went off to the side a little bit. And there was the pick 6, was certainly the turning point of the game last night. But Chiefs win. Mahomes took a shot at PFF. Maybe his grade won't be as worse as what it was last week. Those grades are kind of silly. He threw 5 passing touchdowns last week, and he was graded like number 8 or 9 among quarterbacks. But won't get into that. But Mahomes did look pretty good yesterday, and Chiefs are 2-0. The dart from Herbert after he couldn't run was amazing, Tish. Yeah, it really was. It was fantastic. You just feel like this guy is completely out. He's hurting. He can hardly get to the line. He's like, oh my goodness, this guy's got cracked ribs, and all of a sudden he throws a dart. So we always hold ourselves accountable on this show. We can pump our tires when we get things right, but I thought it was a pretty decent day yesterday from a real life standpoint. Calling the game, and then also betting and fantasy football. Mike Williams, right? We talked a lot this week about the buy low window. It's completely closed now. I think the first 2 plays were to him. He had a great game. He had a touchdown. I think he had 8 grabs over 100 yards. He was fantastic. And what we said about him earlier in the week when we were doing buy lows and sell highs is just he's very boomer bust. Half of his games last year, single digit fantasy points. The other half, double digit, 29-point showing, a 32-point showing, top 5 in end zone targets, inside the top 5 in red zone targets. He's a big body, 15.1 yards per reception last year, was, I think, 8th among wide receivers with 50-plus grabs. So he's going to have some highs and he's going to have some lows. And I tweeted yesterday that the buy low window was closed, and a lot of people came at me and said that there's no way that this guy, people were giving up on him. And that's not true, because we showed the board of the top 10 traded players in CBS fantasy leagues from Tuesday to Wednesday, and Mike Williams was number 10. So it happens. Believe it or not, it really does happen. Mr. Nice Guy in the house was wrong. Totally thought Chargers would win. It was looking pretty good for them at the start of that game. It looked like they were in control. They were giving Mahomes fits defensively. They were getting after him, but they had, credit to the Chiefs for the defense. But it really was the turning point of that game was that pick 6. It certainly was the turning point. It says missed a huge parlay by Joshua Palmer, only getting 30 yards, had 50. Yeah, we did have the alternate yards on this show is 30 plus yards, and he was right at that number. But I did give that one out myself over 47.5 as a single bet. So my apologies there. Ben Johnson in the house. We'll get to that in just a little bit. And maybe we can touch a little bit more on Eckler. I don't know. Deesh is confused on what the Chargers were doing with Eckler. I don't know. I thought he had 24 touches, 25 opportunities. I think early on, I was a little confused in how they used him. But I think we're going to see Kelly, eventually Spiller. He said it before on a fantasy show with Liz Loza, that he has asked the Chargers organization to draft running backs to scale him back from running between the tackles. Doesn't want to be a guy 20 plus carries. He wants to, be there in week 16, 17 into the playoffs, staying fresh. So I think we're going to see Kelly used a little bit out of the backfield, Spiller at times, Sony Michel at times. Last year, they drafted Roundtree. They drafted Kelly the year before. They've drafted guys who've tried to figure this out. Spiller was a draft pick for them. But I don't think anybody should be upset with how he was used. He had 9 catches. He had 9 catches in that game. He still had almost 100 yards in that game as well. Picked over CMC, who's probably people are just a little nervous about CMC, right? Just coming off the injury, and CMC wasn't, a big player. If he doesn't score a touchdown, people are complaining about him week 1. He hardly did anything. He hardly touched the field. I think Eckler's fine. In a high-powered offense, he can be okay. Check in on Eckler owners. Clearly, people are upset with him. Maybe you can get him for cheap. It's the touchdowns, right? 20 last year and none this year. We're going to break. We have some statistics from FTN, fantasy and FTN data we want to show you today. We get some picks against the spread, some props and things like that. And we do want to address some of the questions if you guys do have some start and sit questions. So lots to get to here on Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN Data.
Welcome back in. Mr. Nice Guy says he loves FTN, loves the crew. He says we've won him way more money than losses. So we do appreciate that. Again, we'll hold ourselves accountable, of course, on this show. It was a little bit of a rocky week one for me. I didn't get really anything that I wanted to get right on this show. I wanted to give you guys some props, and I did. I don't think I did very well when it comes to props. I think we had an okay Monday, and yesterday was great as well. So hopefully we can bounce back here with some successful props. If you want to be part of the FTN betting family, FTN 20 gets you 20% off. Code Meaney gets you 20% off as well. And all picks across all sports. Guys, hockey is here. It's basically preseason action last night in the NHL. Get excited. We're going to do some NHL previews, team previews, division previews, some futures and stuff like that on the show next week, some fantasy hockey drafts and rankings to get you set up. And then we'll be giving NHL picks on this show. And you can get the picks, the props, the bets, the sides, the totals, all that with the package, projections tools, Discord channel as well. MLB Dream, this guy is like up to 70 units now. MLB Picks and Props around the diamond coming your way on Game Plus Network this evening at 6 Eastern, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And he's been absolutely hot fire. I also have some MLB picks towards the end of the show, a couple props here for you. But let's dive into, actually, there's a question here. We'll get to this question first, since we see Ben Johnson. Start Deontay Johnson or DJ Moore. I would start DJ Moore. I like the spot slightly better against the Giants for him. I know it was a bit of a dead game for him in week one. It was Robbie Anderson, but he was out there just as much as Robbie Anderson, getting the targets, running the routes, maybe not so much getting the targets, but running the routes and getting the snaps. For Deontay Johnson, he probably will get more targets. I don't love the matchup against the Pats. I think the Pats offense I think it's going to be a long season for New England, but the defense is still decent. And Bill Belichick just does a really good job of taking away the opposing team's best player. So I think the focus will be on Deontay. You don't have Najee completely healthy. I don't expect a lot in this game offensively. I think, I'm splitting hairs. I'd say DJ Moore is the better play. I could take a look at our projections later too to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, and I'd like to do that for you guys as well. If you're not part of the season-long package, these are some of the things that we have to offer, which can help make those tough decisions for you. Look at some of the projections. Jeff Ratcliffe was the #1 ranker in the game last year. We have rankings for myself and him and Scott and Pfeiffer and the whole crew given fantasy football rankings. So let's do it for you. Deontay, let's see what we have for Deontay on the fly. Week 2 projections. We have him for 13.6 fantasy points in a PPR setting. We have him for 8.2 targets, 5.1 receptions, and 59.3 receiving yards. And we have him for 0.4 touchdowns. And let's do more. DJ Moore. So what do we got for DJ? 13.8. It's pretty much split, right? Right even. We have him for 4.9 grabs and 8.7 targets. We have him for 64 receiving yards, so slightly more. That's the way that I would lean DJ Moore. I think he's a pretty good buy low candidate as well. I think people see Robbie Anderson. They're worried about DJ Moore. He's a really good player. He's like 5th in the NFL in yards over the last 3 years. He just doesn't really score touchdowns. But I'm in on DJ. Slight lean to him. I don't know if there's any other questions here. We do have another one here. Please help. What do we have? Start CD or Damian Harris in a half PPR. I would start CD. I know it's going to be ugly for Dallas, but I would start CD. Lamb, I had Cooper Rush, Bengals. He's still going to get a lot of targets. He did get a lot of targets last week. He just didn't catch any of them. Damian Harris, half point, not going to catch a lot. He did catch a little bit last week, which is kind of surprising, but no Ty Montgomery. I think we'll see a larger role from Ramondre Stevenson this week out of the backfield, catching some passes. I would lean with CD, man. I think there's a higher ceiling here for CD Lamb. A tough spot just because of the quarterback play, but I would go that way with CD Lamb. What Deisha's got one here too. J. Rob Carter and Brees. Yeah. So Swift is your RB1. This is a big day for practice reports for certain players. We got to keep an eye on Swift. We got to keep an eye on Julio Jones, Michael Pittman, Alvin Kamara. We got to keep an eye on some of these guys who may not play tonight. But I would go with, I think this is going to be I think this is where the start of Brees Hall passing Carter. I think it starts this week. It was pretty much split in terms of snaps and these guys running routes. Um, Man, I would lean Brees there, honestly. I think Carter's the safer play. I'm playing Robinson. I'm not going to play both Jets backs. You're rolling out Swift. Maybe you're just looking for one. I would play Robinson over the Jets, guys. It's a tough matchup against the Colts, but I still view him as the lead. He was the lead right away coming off the Achilles. It's all Doug Peterson said in the offseason. He was going to be the lead, and I do believe it. I like Brees Hall. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later on. He had, 9 targets, 6 grabs, and 38 receiving yards. That's pretty telling to me. And that's why I feel like he has potential to be a true bell cow back in this offense. I don't think Carter's fully going to go away. There was reports that he's the heartbeat of this offense. I don't fully believe that. Brees Hall's the better talent. Carter's a good back, but Brees Hall is going to overtake him, I think, at times. So I would lean with Robinson and then Brees there. We got Tyler A in the house. Confidence is another guy we have to keep an eye on this week for just practice reports. There was a concussion with him earlier in the week, and then yesterday he didn't practice because of personal reasons. So T. Higgins, if he plays this week, would you have choose between him and Higgins or Marquise? I would play Higgins if he plays. I would play him if he plays. He still has wide receiver 1 upside. I would roll with him, but I do like Hollywood Brown, especially with no Rondell Moore this week. Zach Ertz practiced in full, but this is I think going to be a shootout game between Arizona and Las Vegas. So I do like Hollywood, but if Higgins played, I would roll him out. I know there may be a little bit of a risk. Let's see if he practices in full here today. If he doesn't practice in full, maybe you take the safer play in Hollywood. Kyler and company, they're going to be playing from behind quite often, I think, in this game against Las Vegas. But right now, I lean Higgins. Let's see Tyler if he gets on the field. Mr. Nice Guy says he agrees. He thinks Cooper Rush could surprise some people. For sure. And for these inexperienced quarterbacks, they're just going to throw to their number one option. Why wouldn't they? Right. We've seen that with Geno Smith. He peppered DK last year. He peppered him last week on Monday. And I think Cooper Rush will lean on CeeDee Lamb. He certainly should. What do we got here from Juan? People going crazy over Jeff Wilson, and it's not, and it is not him, is Jordan Mason. Okay. All right. We like that. We've talked about Mason. Mason was that cheap, sneaky little guy that you could pick up off the waiver wire. Everyone's spending 40% of their fab on Jeff Wilson, and then you can get Mason. I think that Jeff Wilson will be the lead, but I do believe Mason is sneaky. He was in over Terry and Davis Price, and he plays a little bit of special teams, so that's why he was active last week, and I think he's ahead of Terry and Davis Price. I think Wilson will be the lead this week, though. I could see him getting 15 carries. I would play him over Jordan Mason, but I would have Mason on your bench. And I don't have Jeff Wilson ranked aggressively. I think I have him as a low in RB2, roughly RB24. It is available. The rankings, of course, at ftnfantasy.com. I want to see what we have for Jeff Wilson here for projections. Only 9.8 fantasy points in a full point setting. We have him for 12 carries, 47 rushing yards, and we have him for 1.7 catches on 11 receiving yards. But let's also keep in mind that we have him for 0.1 rushing touchdowns, right? And that's why, because you got Trey Lance, who had 13 carries last year in 2 starts, 130 rushing yards. He had one game with 16 carries and another one with 8. And then you have Deebo Samuel, who's going to carry the ball out of the backfield, right? There's incentives in his contract for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. So he's certainly going to be involved as well. Tyler's saying Mason or TDP. Long-term, this week, I don't think you want to start any of them. I would say Mason. I know TDP is a 3rd-round pick. They drafted him. They also got it wrong last year, right, with Trey Sermon in the 3rd round. I think it's going to take some time for TDP. I would go Mason over him as of right now. Bateman or Elijah Moore. Lamar is one of my QBs. So, yeah, I would go Bateman there, too. Nice little connection. They hooked up last week in the end zone. They hook up this week in the end zone. That's like at least 12 fantasy points, right? You get, I suppose you're probably playing in 4 point. You get 4 and then the 6. It's 10 plus the yards for both guys. I would go Bateman too. Flacco really spread it around. Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, both backs had 9 targets. Also Elijah Moore. So don't love the spot either. Cleveland, I think it's a low scoring game. So I would lean Bateman there. I think we got all the questions for now, guys. If you have any more, certainly leave them. We'll take a quick break and I will dive into some picks and some props for this week. Keep her locked.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries, but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100. At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
Welcome back in. Mean Streets here on a Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. See some more questions, guys. Leave them there. Certainly get to them before this show is over. I wanted to share some props here, some NFL props that I like. A few of these are in the bet tracker, and I got a few more as well. So I got a couple guys that I'm probably going to tail a lot this year, and it's Cortland Sutton and Christian Kirk. So these are two guys that I really like the usage, especially from Kirk in week 1. We'll show some target shares and some air yard stuff in just a little bit here to kind of back it up. But he had 12 targets, 6 grabs, and 117 yards for Christian Kirk in week 1. I don't mind his 4.5 grabs. It's just really juiced. So I probably wouldn't get involved with that unless it was a same game parlay. You do Kirk catches and Kirk receiving yards, a matchup here against the Colts. You know what? Say what you want about the contract, the money paid, but this is a guy who's in top 10 in terms of air yards last week. And Trevor Lawrence was number 1 in terms of air yards last week as well. It's a free tool over at ftndaily.com. I think that this is a team that's going to be playing from behind quite often all year long. They're coming in as dogs, home dogs right now. And Christian Kirk is, he's kind of used as a deep threat guy. It was a decent ADOT from him. He's probably not going to, that's why you get some games like 12 targets, 6 grabs. If he's targeted deep down the field like that, Trevor Lawrence didn't really have a great deep ball last year. They're going to the connection may not be as crisp, right? It's like Cortland Sutton's on here as well, and he had a high A dot last year and poor quarterback play, and he didn't really in a lot of those targets, but it usually just takes one or two, right, to kind of get to this number. So Kirk, I like the over here at 57.5. I like Cortland Sutton as well. 7 targets, 4 grabs, 72 yards for him. Healthy A dot last year. Just the first game with Russell Wilson and them. It took some time, but Russell Wilson targeted him deep down the field. Again, we'll get to some air yard stuff in just a little bit, but both of those guys on the board. I like the over 54.5. It's a good matchup here against the Texans as well. I also have Javonte Williams at 20.5 receiving yards. Now, I don't think that he is going to, rack up 8 or 9 catches every single week. Like that may have just been an outlier. They were down in the game. They're 10-point favorites in this contest. I don't think that they'll be down in this game playing from behind too often, but 12 targets, 11 grabs, and 65 receiving yards. It only takes 1 or 2 catches for him. He's so elusive. He's so explosive with the ball in his hands. He's breaking tackles left, right, and center. So I'm going to take the over on Javonte Williams at 20.5 receiving yards. And then Trey Lance, 8.5 rushing attempts at plus 110. I mentioned he had 13 rushing attempts last week. Last year in 2 starts, he had 24 rushing attempts, 1 game with 16, another one with 8. He had 130 rushing yards. I know that Jeff Wilson's there, going to steal some carries, and I understand that Deebo Samuel is there as well. But I think Trey Lance is going to run. It's just in his nature. Like he's just something that he likes to do and something he's very good at doing. And they don't have their number 1 running back. So I get it. Jeff Wilson was the hot waiver wire pickup, but he's not fantastic. So Trey Lance at over 8.5 rushing attempts. And then Breece Hall here, 2.5 receptions plus money, and then 14.5 receiving yards. If you just wanted to choose one, it would be just the receiving yards. As I mentioned, 9 targets, 6 grabs, and 38 receiving yards for him last week. Also had Michael Carter in there. I don't think Flacco is going to throw the ball 50 plus times, but he used both of those running backs, checking it down. We have Cleveland as touchdown favorites here. This game is going to be at a bit of a slower pace. The Browns like to slow it down, run the rock with their 2 running backs, and Nick Chubb's going to have a lot of success against the Jets. But I think Breece Hall I don't think we're going to get this number 2 often. I think, if he tops this again, you're going to have 2 weeks with him being a big time player out of the backfield. And then we get into week 3 and 4 where, he may get up to 3.5 catches and up to 25 receiving yards or something like that. But I like both of those plays for, the catches and the receiving yards. Tyler, do you have the air yard stuff handy? Show some people here. Free tools. So ftndaily.com, you can see this ftnfantasy.com as well. So this is percentage of the team's air yards. So AJ Brown had 73% of the air yards from Jalen Hurts. That is a ludicrous number. Justin Jefferson right there as well. I mean, both numbers are going to come back down a little bit, but heavily used in the offense. And that should be a really entertaining game on Monday Night Football. We'll have some props on Monday for that contest, but I don't see anybody slowing down Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams, 53% of his team's air yards. He had a week 1 high, 17 targets. He also had the highest target share, which we'll get to in a little bit. Richie James, pretty surprising to see him on this list. And Kadarius Toney's running with the 3rd-team offense in practice. So I don't know. It's going to be another Richie James week. It's not like he did anything, but a lot of targets down the field. Yeah, that's the guy, right, Tyler? That's the guy that does not belong on this list. Richie James. What did he finish with? I think he had 6 targets. Richie James. Yeah, he had 6 targets, 5 grabs, 59 yards. Very interesting, right, to see him on those lists. I don't think we'll see him on this list moving forward. Brandon Cooks, no surprise. He was on this list last year. He is the number 1 guy for the Texans. I think we'll see Nico Collins, show up in a bigger way moving forward. But Cooks is certainly the one on this team. Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Robbie Anderson, right? Robbie Anderson, I mentioned her earlier with the DJ Moore question. Robbie Anderson is going to be the guy that Baker targets deep down the field. The high A-dot guy stretches the field a little bit. DJ Moore is not that type of wide receiver. So I wouldn't be shocked if Robbie Anderson was inside the top 20 or 15 at the, when we get into 3-4 weeks into the season. He's on this list, but everybody else I kind of expect to be here, right? Maybe we see Jamar Chase here. He was just outside. What else do you have? You have the air yards. Here we go. So just a little bit of a sneak peek of the top 10. I think number 11 was Julio. Number 12 was Corey Davis. A little bit surprising, but Devontae Adams, 177. Kirk, right? Mentioned Trevor Lawrence deep down the field, taking shots with Kirk and also just throwing the ball quite a bit. I mean, he missed his old buddy, his old former teammate, current teammate, Travis Etienne a couple times in the end zone, almost had a receiving touchdown, and Etienne had a bad drop. I think actually he's in play again for receiving yards. I think we got that by a yard. I think it moved up to 20. And, if you got 20, you didn't get it, but it would have been a bad beat for you. Chark is interesting. Chark should be on this list until Jameson comes back. I think he's interesting this week as well, and a potential high total, high scoring game between Washington and Detroit this week. Chark was a hot waiver wire pickup, really drafted, maybe late round pick in there, but I think he's going to get a ton of air yards. Jarvis Landry, I don't know if he's going to be here, but he was a big time player in week 1. I like him. I would start him this week as a flex play in the slot. I think I like him over Chris Olave until we get going. Olave will maybe overtake him, but Landry's a veteran, right? He's a great guy. It's just interesting to see the air yards considering he's a slot guy. Other guys here deep down the field, right? Deontay, Michael Pittman, Justin Jefferson, Cortland Sutton, and I think we have one more. Do we have one more we can show the people? Here it is. So this is just the target share leaders from their teams. So we saw the air yards, we saw we saw air yards in there, and we saw targets. But here we go. So target share, 49% healthy, very healthy. AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, interesting. Those 3 wide receivers that we touched on yesterday on new teams with new quarterbacks. These guys are familiar with some of their quarterbacks, AJ Brown and certainly Devontae Adams. Cooper Kupp, Donovan Peoples-Jones, pretty interesting to see that name. We talked yesterday with Brian Cook about that. He thinks it's a trend that's going to continue. I'm not so sure, but a good first week there for Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think we'll see Amari Cooper and Njoku get involved more as we get going here. Jefferson, Cooks, Jamar Chase, Christian Kirk again, Deontay Johnson. So Deontay Johnson's on a couple of these boards, right? I still lean Elijah or DJ Moore rather, but Deontay Johnson is definitely the one on the Steelers. It's just the quarterback play is not so great, and I don't love the matchup this week against New England. So we wanted to share some of that with you guys, share the props. We'll take another break. I see a couple more questions we can get to, and I got some picks for you as well. So keep your lock. Lots more to get to here on Mean Streets. Welcome back in. A question here from Mr. Roper. He is. Oh, okay. Sorry. Chris. Sorry. Okay. Oh, good. If Lenny is out this week, do you like Montgomery or Renfro in his place? Carr, Adams. I think that Rachaad White needs to be owned everywhere. I think he might be the best handcuff in fantasy football. That offense is awesome. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to beat up on a lot of teams inside the NFC. And if Lenny does have a track record, like not the cleanest in terms of health, right? So, man, keep an eye on that. I know a hamstring popped up, but is he practicing today? Need to find out. If he's out, Montgomery, Renfroe in his place, Carr, Adams in your lineup as well. What do you think? I mean, you can go all out if you want to on the Raiders stack. I mean, they have one of the highest team implied totals. I think that they probably put up 30 points here. I'd say Renfroe would be more involved, and Carr has a really good day. I would maybe play Renfroe, honestly. Montgomery didn't get any goal line opportunities last week. He got a lot of carries, but he wasn't efficient. He can catch a couple passes. They're probably going to be playing from behind. I was thinking about getting involved with his reception yard prop and just his receiving yards and his reception prop, but I went another way. I think I would play Renfroe, man. I really do. I like the situation here for Vegas against Arizona. And for Montgomery, as I mentioned, Khalil Herbert he was involved. He had 3 goal line opportunities. He looks like the better back. He's got a nice cut. He's explosive. And when the game was on the line last week, in that weather, they gave the ball to Khalil Herbert. So as of right now, I would go Renfroe, but I think you should get White. Check to see if White is available. And if Lenny doesn't play, I'd play White. Absolutely. I know it's a tough spot against the Saints, but he probably touched the ball 15 times. Not bad. What else do we have here? Daily handle, Duvernay, your boy. Duvernay or Boyd in the second flex spot. Renfroe, Melvin Gordon, or Devontae in the flex spot. I would go Boyd, especially if there's no T. Is this another? So you would go in the second flex spot, and then in the other flex spot, one of the 3 here. I would go, 2 flex spots. So you could do Boyd Duvernay if you wanted. I think actually Renfroe needs to be. I think you need to play Renfroe. I would go Boyd Renfroe. I mean, Duvernay's your guy. You're in on Duvernay. I mean, I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. I know we had a convo, kind of a convo with you, talking about Duvernay. I think he's the third option on a run heavy team. I know a lot of the attention goes to Andrews and Bateman, but he was behind those 2 in snaps and running routes. I don't think he's a guy. I think he's going to be very touchdown dependent. I would go with Boyd and I would go with Renfroe. I think Devontae is going to get more looks, but hard to start him if he just had a 0 for you. So hard to kind of roll him out there. Okay, let's get to some picks. Bear with me, guys. Feeling a little weird here today. All of a sudden, just a little lightheaded and things like that. But I'm gonna roll through the rest of this show. Let's get the picks up, Tyler, and let's roll through some spreads and some money line stuff. And I got some DFS stuff for you in the next block before we wrap up MLB. No problem, Daily Handle. Good luck, man. With your call, I don't think you can go wrong. You got some nice options there. Gordon is a nice back to have as like a bench piece, but Javonte's still a guy there. But clearly, he's going to be involved, so it's a nice piece. I wouldn't drop him. I thought there was like a drop question I'll get to a little bit later on. Okay, against the spread. Man, I'm all over the place. Bills 9.5. It's a high total, but out of all the high totals, this is the team that I think will cover. Buffalo at 9.5. I don't feel all that strong about Denver with the 10 and the Packers with the 10 and the Rams with the 10, but Buffalo home opener. I know the Titans have had their way against Buffalo over the past couple of years, but this one is, in Buffalo home opener. Love the defense, just legit, right? I just think the Bills are legit here. Probably force Tannehill into a couple turnovers. Las Vegas, I think, will roll at home. Arizona's got a lot of issues going on. We talked about KC steamrolling them last week, and that's exactly what happened. No Rondo Moore this week. They just don't have much going for them as of right now, and they're sub 500 without DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup. You go back to last year, they started off strong. Hopkins had injury, and then they were, I think, 3-4 down the stretch. Kyler struggled as a passer. I didn't see anything that I really liked last week from Arizona, besides Hollywood getting that touchdown at the very end. That was nice. I think that they'll be playing from behind quite a bit here, and I like Las Vegas at home to roll and Derek Carr to kind of get it right. I don't think they have anybody that's going to be able to stop Adams or even Waller. I didn't think of some decent players, but Adams is going to eat. And then Seattle, it's another high spread. Yeah, I think you probably missed out on the 10 early to start the week, but I still like 8.5. Why am I getting involved with San Fran? There's a couple of things here with this game. I feel like Seattle just played their Super Bowl game, against Russell Wilson, former guy, and Monday Night Football in Seattle. They just played it a very high, like they're feeling themselves, and this could potentially be a trap. But Seattle, like Pete Carroll and Kyle Shanahan, like these guys have always played tight, no matter who the quarterback is, Geno Russell or Jimmy G. So you could say that it's a downgrade from Russ to Geno, but also a downgrade from Jimmy to Trey Lance. So division game, Trey Lance didn't look that great. He hasn't looked great as, in his limited role. I know it was a bad weather game there. Geno did look good. in that game. Seattle's defense, I thought, played pretty good. Jamal Adams being out is definitely a big blow to the defense for sure, but I think that this will be a tight game. I really do. And so I'm going to take Seattle there. The money line plays, I didn't want to give you guys I'm trying to give you close to even odds as possible. Now, Denver at -500, things like that. I didn't want to do that. Indy, I like them on the spread as well at 3.5, but put them in if you want to do a parlay or get them into a single, I think it's fine. Tampa, you're probably better off taking the Bucks at -2.5, at better odds at -110 as opposed to -140 here for the money line. I know that there's a lot going on here for the Bucks. Maybe you want to wait this one out just to see if they will have Leonard Fournette healthy, if Russell Gage and Julio Jones are playing. I think you want to maybe wait that one out and hang tight. A lot of people are on the Saints because the Saints they've given Tom Brady fits. He's had like 8 picks in a couple regular season games. They've certainly had their way with Tom Brady in the regular season. Brady beat them in the playoffs, but this is different. It's not Peyton. It's not the same defense. We don't know if Kamara is going to play here. I still like the Bucks to win this game, but like I said, maybe you want to wait it out just a little bit just to make sure that I don't think there'll be too much line movement and things like that. You see a lot of money actually coming in on the Saints and the Vikings. Philly at home. It's the link will be rocking for sure, but I like what I saw from Minnesota, and I didn't really love what I saw from Philly's defense. I'm not really sold on Gannon as a defensive coordinator. Detroit had a lot of success moving the ball against Philadelphia, and Minnesota. I mean, they got a great back and Cook. Justin Jefferson's going to be a handful. Thielen and Kevin O'Connell's offense and Kirk Cousins. I like the way that they looked in that first game. So plus money for Minnesota. If I had to choose between one of those toss-up games like Washington or Detroit, I think Miami could cover. I would probably lean Washington. You can get them at plus money as well, but like I said, I didn't want to give a juicy pick here. And then over-unders, I got the under between the Jets and the Browns. I think it'll be a slow-moving game. Cleveland there running the rock. Jets not doing too much on offense. And the same sort of deal here with Chicago and Green Bay under 42. I not super impressed with what I saw from Green Bay offensively. They could get Alan Lazard back this week, which will help them. But we know what Chicago wants to do. The zone scheme. They want to run the rock, right? And they want to run with multiple running backs and for Justin Fields as well. A lot of 21 personnel, which is a run formation. And then I think we'll see a lot of points in Philly and Minnesota. I really do. I think we'll see a ton of offense. And another one that I wanted to give you guys, but just not in here, is keeping it to 3 is. Tyler, I know, taking Kirk in primetime. You're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. Kirk in primetime is a thing for sure. But I am going to lean with Kirk, and I am fading my birds there just a little bit. But I think that should be a highly entertaining game. I like what I saw from the Vikings there. I think Minnesota's legit. That other total that I don't have on there is Washington-Detroit. That one's around 48.5. I think that's going to be a high-scoring affair as well. Detroit moved the ball, as I mentioned, against the Eagles. They got a good offensive line. Let's see if Swift plays. Is running the rock. Carson Wentz looked okay, right? What do you in that game? Take a quick break, Tyler. If we'll be back here in a couple. Maybe I'll just keep on. Bear with us, guys, here for some technical difficulties. Tyler, quick prep break. Tyler, we'll break. If not, we'll just keep on running. So Swift practice is great. I like the over on that 48.5. All right, my apologies, guys, for some of the technical difficulties. It seems like it's potentially on my end here, so we'll try to just bear with us, and we'll try to wrap up this show here. I don't know what you guys saw and what you didn't at the end, but we want to check up the picks board one more time, and we do have a parlay and a teaser that we can get into as well. So, in case you didn't see that, there you go. Like the over in Washington to Detroit, saw the news. Deesh, thanks for that swift practice today. That's good news. So the parlay is a little bit chalky. Denver, LA, Indy, Buffalo, and Las Vegas at plus 292. You see the 7-point teaser there at 4-1. What can go wrong, right? Daily handle, what could go wrong in this one? Who ruins this teaser for us? Is it the Bucks 4.5? If they lose by a field goal. I like some of these 10-point teams just to win by a field goal. Buffalo, Denver, the Rams, Green Bay. I would take the other side on Houston plus 10, Atlanta plus 10.5. I like Indy 3.5. And then Green Bay, I'd kind of just staying away from that. I think in my own pool, I will pick Chicago plus 10, but I'm not going to put my hard-earned bucks on, the Packers covering that 10 or the Bears covering that 10 either. But I do like them, Chicago or Green Bay rather, to win by a field goal. And then Survivor. We made it through. Baltimore was our number one choice last week. If you made it through, these are the teams that I would take a look at. The Rams, the Broncos at home, the Bills at home. Cincy, I think, is a gamble. But I do like the Bengals. They should be hungry. They had that tough loss and then Cooper Rush. I think that they'll take care of business. I think it'll be a tight game, to be honest. I don't think we'll see a lot of offense, a lot of scoring, and Dallas's defense is good enough to hang tight. But I do, I think you could, if you're in those like multiple entry survivors, people get a little bit cute. I think that's why I saw in some of my leagues, like the Titans. Who the heck was picking the Titans week 1 preseason? Goodbye, or preseason week 1 survivor. See you later. Daily classic means teaser. Never a teaser that doesn't look good. I know, right? There isn't one that looks good or that looks bad. They all look good until Sunday night. There was a question from F here. Let's get to it. What was it? It was a trade. He traded away Kelsey and Sutton for Jonathan Taylor. RBs were awful either way. I don't know. Also traded away Dave Montgomery and Mooney for DJ Moore, Bateman, and Chase Edmonds. So a lot of moves there. Kelsey for Sutton. I think I'd rather Kelsey and Sutton, but if your running backs are slim, then you have to do what you got to do to kind of, balance out your squad. So now you got RB1. I don't think it's awful. I thought, maybe you could have got a little bit more, but I don't know who you're rolling at tight end. There's no need to roll, have 2 tight ends if you have Kelsey. So maybe you have a decent tight end that you could get a nice return for Kelsey. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad move. I mean, I just really like Courtland Sutton as a player, but as I see here, you trade away Montgomery, and then you go, Montgomery and Mooney. So you trade away 2 Chicago Bears. You had them both on the same team. Offense not great, kind of getting away of each other. And then you got DJ Moore, Bateman, Chase Edmonds. I like this move here. It's pretty solid, right? I like Bateman over Mooney slightly. And I like Chase Edmonds. He did dominate the touches last week. We kind of nailed him all over the place, over 8.5 carries and over 2.5 receptions, 18.5 receiving yards. He's definitely the lead there in Miami. And I think Mostert is just like kind of second fiddle. So I think you did pretty good here. You traded away a lot of pieces, but I think I like the overall look of your team, the balance as well. I thought Daily Handle betting against my Eagles. Yeah, I know. It is what it is. Here it is. This is what I saw. Hawkinson and Stevenson dropped to the wires. Is it worth dropping Curtis Samuel, Jeff Wilson, Miles Sanders for them? No, you could drop Curtis Samuel if you wanted. I mean, I'd hang on to Wilson. And I'd certainly hang on to Miles Sanders. Who's your other tight end? You may upgrade over Hawkinson. Wow, Hawkinson dropped. Overreaction, the craziness after week 1. Stevenson, I do like as well. So I'd rather have the running back depth than the wide receiver depth in Curtis Samuel. So you could make that drop. If you're still hanging out with us, you can let us know who you what other tight ends you had there. Maybe an upgrade over Hawkinson as well. Did we get to everything here? Deesh had another one. There's one. Here's a good one for me. PPR, need 2. Thomas, Waddle, CD, Dillon. Also got Kareem, Edmonds, but other guys are better in my opinion. I would play Michael Thomas. And I would play... I could play Dillon. I could play Dillon over Waddle. I think between Thomas, Waddle, and Dillon for me. Yeah, I think Evans okay. Kareem Hunt had a good day, but he wasn't really involved. I don't think he's going to be that efficient moving forward. I would go Thomas, Got to play Michael Thomas, I think, with the upside and the ceiling. He had the 2 touchdowns. And I'll go with Dylan. I liked what I saw from him running the rock and things like that. So Swift practicing now. Should I drop Jamal for Ken Walker? Yeah, I would do it. We talked about it yesterday, right? With the handcuffing is not. I know I just mentioned it with Leonard Fournette. It's tough to have a running back on your bench. It's always going to be on your bench. You're never going to play him over Swift, but you would play Kenneth Walker, right? At times, I think you play him as a flex. You feel good about him, I think, in a couple weeks. And once you get into bye weeks and things like that, when Detroit goes on a bye, what are you doing? It's like your bench piece is also on a bye. So I would do it. I would trade in Jamal for Ken Walker. We got some DFS stuff here, just kind of quick rapid fire, and then we'll round out with some MLB picks for the show here. So these are the quarterbacks I'm looking at. I really like Arizona. I really like Derek Carr and company, as you can see. I think there's different ways you can go about it. They're going to be chalky, right? They have one of the highest team implied totals. Arizona's a mess. You're at home. I think Carr will be much better. Adams is going to be really chalky as well, and Waller. To be different, you could go Josh Jacobs at the running back position. You could go Jacobs and then get Kyler and Hollywood in there because they're going to be playing from behind. So you get Kyler and Hollywood, and then Jacobs. If I'm painting a game script, I'm seeing a lot of points for the Raiders, and then a lot of catch up for Kyler and company. I think it's a game that I really like from a fantasy standpoint. I also like that Washington and Detroit game as well. You see that I have Antonio Gibson there. If you didn't want to play Gibson, you do a little Carson Wentz and Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson. Get DJ Chark in your lineup as well. Again, using air yards, target share, some tools that I wanted to show you on guys that were really heavily used in week 1. Andrews didn't do anything in week 1. People will go chasing Duvernay and maybe a little bit of Bateman, but Lamar to Andrews, I think, is a nice little stack that I like. Also, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon are running backs that I want to pay up for. Not breaking any news. Both of those guys are really good. I think Javonte Williams is interesting as well. Darrell Henderson is interesting, but I like that pivot off Darrell Henderson maybe to Josh Jacobs. If you're playing in tournaments, I think if you're playing cash in smaller head-to-head formats or smaller contests, you probably go away from Jacobs. I think Henderson is maybe safer. I say maybe because it is Sean McVay after all, and the offensive line is atrocious. But in that price range, I think Jacobs is pretty interesting for tournaments. Kirk, Sutton, these are guys I've already kind of touched on. Zach Ertz, again, inside that game, high-powered game, I think we'll see a lot of points. And that's really it from tight ends. I think Albert O is a guy you could take a shot on with maybe Russell Wilson in there, but I think I'd much rather get Cortland Sutton in. But that's a couple players I'm thinking from a DFS standpoint. We'll take another break and we'll round out Mean Streets. We've got some MLB picks, and I appreciate all your guys' patience here on this Friday. Bats, we'll be back in a couple. Oh, welcome back in, Nathan. That comment killed me. I don't know if we should put it up, but you had me in stitches in the commercial break. A shout out to Vance McLeod, father-in-law, who came up with that intro for me in music. So I'm pretty thankful that he had that tune for us. But yeah, it does get stuck in your head, and I like it. It's okay. All right. MLB props and picks here for the end. It's more than okay, and I'm very thankful. MLB props here for the end. A couple pitching props for you guys here today. You jump on over to our FTN Network YouTube page for that comment from Nathan. Robbie Ray, 6.5K plus money. Are you kidding me? This guy's faced the Angels 3 times this year, and he's had 10 strikeouts in all 3 starts. 30 strikeouts for Robbie Ray and 20 innings against the Halos, who check in with the 7th highest strikeout rate in baseball against lefties. I am taking Robbie Ray. I know he struggles with walks and bombs, but 6.5 plus money. Oh my goodness, this might be a trap. I don't know how. 10K, guys, in each of his 3 starts against the Halos. Blake Snell's been really, really good. I've been hard on this guy before in the past, but he's been fantastic over, his last 2.5 months or so. Minus 125 over 6.5 strikeouts here against Arizona. He just faced Arizona a couple starts ago. He had 10 punch-outs. He's got 139 strikeouts in 103 innings, 12.5K per 9. Arizona's got a top 10 strikeout rate against lefties this season. And then Lucas Giolito at 5.5. This is his 4th start against Detroit this season. He has surpassed this number in each of those 3, 7, 8, and 6 in 17 2/3 innings. And we have the Tigers, who check in with a 25.2% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. It's the 3rd highest mark in all of baseball, and they are also inside the top 5 in swinging strike percentage. Javier Baez loves to chase pitches outside of the strikeout zone. He may strike out a couple times. Guys, appreciate you guys hanging out, dealing with the technical difficulties. We got to get out of here. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Cheers.